I try to find the original video. So this is about the debate between Andy and Actman, right? And again, I try not to watch. Like, if I'm interested in a video or like in a topic, like I will not watch any other video about it until I give my take on it, and then after that, then I will give my opinion because I don't know, man. I just don't want like the things I say to sort of be the same things other people say. And it's one thing to just agree on the same thing, like that makes sense, but I want it to be from my words and not be the same word for word what anybody else says. So everything is woke. See, the thing about the word woke is it's more prescriptive than descriptive, so it's proactive or reactive, right? So, okay, I might not be able to give you the one word definition of it, but okay, what is woke? Well, not knowing what a female, like what a woman is, right? That's pretty woke. So the information has just been sucked from your brain. And okay, what's woke in a company? Well, to me, it's companies disregarding its consumers, disregard in order to chase some ideological grandstanding notion that is completely separate than what to why the company exists. Like, as a company, you exist to make money and to shut the fuck up. Like, no one's gonna look towards a multi-billion-dollar company for its morals, right? Like, you just make money and shut the hell up. And someone gave me this, and I mean, I don't want to do a reactception here, so I might just only talk about what Asmongolds' opinion on it, because they say he has a very interesting opinion on it and wanted to get my take. So that's what I'm gonna do. Reactception. Let's do it.
Watch the whole Act Man Andy
This so
pants. Most is
fucking weird.
inconsequential.
But this part is very relevant.
I never have watched this. I have no idea what even happened here.
Told you, I think it's incredibly strange to talk about Concord and not. Told you, I think it's incredibly strange to talk about Concord and not mention the clear woke slop. And you make fun of people who use the word woke, and you never use the word, even though it completely describes what's going on right now in gay games.
So the thing about the word woke is it harkens back to that old story we all read and were taught when we were growing up, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. These days, it's The Boy Who Cried Woke. There is so much disingenuous criticism using the word woke. The word is so liberally applied to everything.
This is why we banned it on the subreddit, by the way, for a while. Is because people use the word woke the same as they use the word, like, racist or, like, a few other things. Where it's like, this is like basically it's like a filler word because I don't know how to actually define what the problem is. So I'm just going to use like this bucket word that somehow is going to apply. DEI is the new woke? Yeah, DEI is, yeah, exactly.
I mean, again, people use the word because there's this thing called TOS, right? If people would explain it the way, say, they would at a bar, or like your bus driver would, or like your mailman would on the internet, you'll just get banned. Like, the people who fit this description will come after you, right? And again, these people, again, they treat online as if it's its own ecosystem, its own world, because they are internally online. Again, tell anybody else, like if anyone else was in reality who works for a living would give their description on the word woke, again, you don't have terms of service in real life unless you're the UK, in which they actually want to prosecute people for like harassment and for hate speech. which is rarely defined. Unlike that, woke is pretty much, it's the word we use where it's like, if you know, you know. And if you don't know, well, your understanding really isn't required.
The future of
YouTube
your
is
business is
unplayable
here.
without an ad.
With Wix, you get advanced.
Shut the fuck up.
Thing because there are so
There's
many
two races in video games. There's white and woke.
God.
online grifters who produce daily outrage content that are saying this thing is woke, this thing is woke, you should be angry, you should be upset. Tune in tomorrow for episode 4000.
Don't you ever fucking disrespect me like that, Act Man. I do this because I enjoy it. I don't make money off this. I only have 30 fucking subscribers. And goddamn it, I'm gonna keep doing it.
1169 on why Star Wars is woke now and why you should hate it and be mad and angry and upset.
Yeah.
There's so much of that going on that the ending of the story of the boy who cried wolf is that at the end there was a wolf out there, but because there were so many false claims of there being a wolf, the people didn't help him. So that's what's happened with the word woke. When I hear somebody,
I think that Actman's bringing up a really good point here, and I think the best example of that point is that a lot of people have labeled games like Space Marine 2 as woke because it has I guess like a female commander in it, and I feel like that's not really what's happening. And a lot of people, well, sorry, that's actually not true. A lot of people is inaccurate. You're correct in correcting me on that. There is like a list of like what games are woke and what games are not woke. And I think Elden Ring and Space Marine 2 were put on that list. So when you paint with such a broad brush that almost anything could be, if you interpret it in this way, could be perceived as woke, you end up devaluing the word. No, I'm...
Well, yeah, because people act reactive, not proactive. Again, and the type of people who push the body type A, body type B, push for female representation, even though they don't actually know how to write good female characters because they're pushing a box, who, like the same companies that hire the consultants, people whose entire job it is to make the art worse. Like, they push for these exact same things, and they brag about it. They push for things that don't make the product good, right? Because everyone knows a good female character when they see him. Everyone knows a good African American character if you see it. I'm like, you don't need it described, but they impose so this is how they act, this is how you need to do, like that. They're the ones with the stereotypes, right? The woke individuals that try to push this, right? Because here's the thing, right? Diversity happens naturally, right? You don't need to push it. And again, these people who try to check boxes and push it, they don't do it the right way. They don't do it correctly. And at the same time, they're anti-gamer, they're anti-consumer. Like, they purposely do it in a way that people see it and they don't care. And again, for Star Wars Outlaws, right? And for the Acolyte, like, the people over them actively made changes to the art itself just to check boxes. And everyone knows when this is happening. Like, this isn't something that needs to be defined. Right? Like, diversity is obviously a good thing because it reflects reality. The problem is the people trying to push these initiatives, they don't understand reality. They understand the very small circle that they revolve in, like the community managers and like the moderators, like that ban everyone else that has even the slightest criticism, and they call it harassment. Like, they only surround themselves by people that look like them, talk like them, act like them. They don't actually meet other people in real life, right? And these types of people are now pushing their ideology into art, into games, into movies, into TV shows, and the market's rejecting it because people know when a soapbox is being pushed.
I'm being serious, right? Baldur's Gate 3 too. Well, I could see Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 makes a lot more sense that it's woke because you can engage in homosexual relationships. You can, I think they have pronouns in the game. You can change a character's genitalia with, like, not having them have a different body. I feel like Baldur's Gate 3, like, you could make an argument that, like, yeah, sure, this is a woke type thing, right?
Absolutely, and people wouldn't have a problem with that if you could make a character with a D size, with breast size over D, or a fat fucking ass, or you could actually make a beautiful fucking character, or if any of the NPCs were actually beautiful, like hot, and not just sort of mid, and maybe just a little bit over mid, right? People wouldn't care, but we know why they don't have the breast sliders and have tig old bitties. Like, they actively remove things that they knew people would want because of ideology. And the thing was with Baldur's Gate 3 is, once you have the relationship with the character, it ends. Like, there's nothing past that. And it's like, well, now, romances in games didn't used to be like that. Like, when you had a relationship with a character, it carried throughout the fucking story. It didn't just end the minute you fuck them.
It's just that people don't care because it seems like it's an authentic product. And so,
I mean, it is.
I think that what happened is that people are trying to, like, identify every instance of something being woke. But I think that if you retroactively apply this to a lot of other games, you would see other games in the past that have also had this issue as well, right? So, like, for example, with like Space Marine 2, you could also say, like, Gears of War, right? Would also...
But games in the past didn't try to push a small, fringe, ideological notion that nobody really cares about. Like, games in the past actually tried to be good games and push boundaries, and now you had bad games, right? And this is with a fraction of the technology, a fraction of the cost, a fraction of the people, and they're just better products. And again, like I said, diversity happens naturally. It's not something that can be pushed. It's not something you can check boxes on. And that's the problem. That's what's happening, right? They don't do diversity right. And people see this. Like, people aren't dumb. But again, they view anyone that has just the slightest critique or criticism, they throw isms at them, throw morally charged labels at them, and they're like, oh, well, we're not going to talk to you anymore. We're going to ban you, right? And again, it's not a one-word definition. And again, it's one of those things where everyone from the trash collector to the bus driver knows what you mean when you say woke. It's not something that requires a definition to people who understands what's happening and understands the tactics being used against them, right? It's people who, that are pushing the woke. I'll be like, oh, what do you mean? What do you mean? But it's like, well, if you don't understand, that's fine. They're either being disingenuous or they live under a rock.
also be woke because of Coltrane and Dom, right? So that seems like kind of a bad argument, a bad way to look at it.
Those were good
So
games.
the problem is that I think that people have started using the term woke for too many different things, or Halo, right? Yeah, exactly. Like, oh wow, Master Chief has a woman that knows everything, that tells him what to do, and Sergeant Johnson's like this black guy, and like he tells everybody else what to do, right? If you want to look at every
Cortana is an AI, and effectively his girlfriend. Now you could argue what they did in the later implementations were woke garbage, but again, Combat Evolved 1, 2, 3 ODST, again, yeah, diversity was in there, but no one was calling it woke. Here's an example of a woke product that was good. Black Panther, right? Amazing movie. I love the movie. Didn't much care for the villain, right? I think the crazy psychopathic white guy was better, but whatever. But again, it's a perfect example of a woke product that was just good because it made sense, right? But and it didn't try to push, didn't try to add tokenisms, didn't try to, check boxes. It was just a genuinely good product that you could claim was woke, fine, whatever. It was just a good movie regardless. But again, nowadays, because you have government grants locked behind these, because you have government initiatives that tell you, you need to have this in your game, you need to have these levels of representation, even if it makes no fucking sense, right? Even if it's like historical and it makes no fucking sense. Like, you have ESG, you have consultants, you have government grants locked behind this. And so companies will do it even if it means, even if it disregards what the consumer wants, what the gamer wants. And this is what's happening, at least with AAA gaming companies now, is this woke corporate ideology going through it. And again, they call it the woke mind virus. I call it more of a cancer, right? Those people, they don't care about the consumer because they go to university and they can only only fight using one tactic and one tool, and that's to tear down, right? And that's to hate everything and everyone. Like, they don't create, right? Because hate doesn't create, they only destroy. And you see this what happened with Godot, right? They're destroying.
Everything through that lens, it's like if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I do think Actman's bringing up a good point that if everything is woke, then nothing is. And I think that the problem is that Concord, which is, like, in my opinion, definitely a woke game, like 100%, is that if you don't figure out a way to, like, grade this or to have any sort of, like, measured criticism, you can't say Concord is as woke as Space Marine 2, right? Like, this is, it's like, it's beyond retarded.
Yeah, I agree if people do grossly oversimplify it, but again, that's not the problem, right? The problem is, why was Concord allowed to exist? A product that they knew no one wanted or was going to buy, but money was still spent on it by Sony anyway. Like, wow. People want a Bloodborne 2, which is never fucking happening. And Sony is the company that claims, oh, we don't really have many IPs to fall back on. Again, it's this corporate idea that we need to erase the past, and now from here going forward, we can do better. We know what to do, right? That's the problem. And again, when I see this, I'm like, okay, it's woke. You're not getting my money. Because, yeah, I mean, I can tell if a game's shit based off a very small criteria, right? And I do this. I've gotten this down to a science, and many people have. The reason everything is becoming woke is because, again, these things are being pushed into all your games, all your mainstream games, all of the mainstream movies. It's why everything's becoming a remake, a remaster, a prequel, a sequel, right? Nothing's new is coming out. Like, you could argue that Concord was new, but it wasn't made for gamers. It was effectively an Overwatch ripoff made to suck up government grants and money from Sony.
So that's a huge issue, and I think it's making it hard for people that are, like, against this kind of stuff to be taken seriously, because they're doing things that are unserious. If you accept everything, you stand for nothing. Well, yeah, but, like, this is like the opposite. Like, if you don't stand for anything, then all you're doing is laying down. You're doing nothing. So it's like you have to be measured in your criticism and your feedback.
It's what happened to the words.
No, again, the problem is they're acting like, oh no, you need to be this educated, argumentor of everything. Like, most people just don't care. They'll just be like, it's woke. You're not taking my money. And that's where the criticism ends, right? And people put their money towards things they want, like, Space Marines, Black Myth Wukong. Yeah, there's going to be those people that grossly oversimplify everything, but they're not the majority, right? The majority will make their decisions on a product based off, again, a small criteria. Like, again, if it's a remake, you're already in hot water with me. But then you make specific changes, like in Silent Hill 2, right? That, they beat the female character with the ugly stick. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm not buying you. Sorry. And I don't care if the game's good. Again, the problem is people don't care if the game actually ends up being good, even if it's woke. Like, people want a situation where there's new IPs, companies value the customer, value the gamer, right? And again, this is what people want. And if they have to pass up good games and good TV shows and good movies that may spring out one out of the 20 or 30 shit movies to have this, then they'll do it. I mean,
racist and sexist a few years ago.
He's right.
People
That's
were
exactly
saying
what I
like
said.
air conditioning sexist and
Yes.
Right.
all this stupid
Which, by
shit.
the way, that was a real title. That was a legitimate thing. Women were saying that air conditioning was sexist.
yeah, I mean, again, and the tactic works. Like, the same people that were saying stupid shit back in like 2016, like, now these people are the community managers. Now they're the consultants in these companies. Like, after George Floyd, companies started looking for ways to cover their ass, even if it meant disregarding the consumer in the process. They just didn't want to get sued. And yeah, and now these people that effectively, they're the type of people that were losers. They didn't have any friends, or they didn't have any like values, are now surrounding themselves with everyone else. The type of people that have pronouns in the bio, mental illnesses in the bio, and they're entering these companies and they're changing the product, and they're attacking the consumers if the product's not what the consumer wants. And again, these people, they represent the company to me, even if it's someone contracted. Like, you still represent the fucking company. And if you put out a product the consumer doesn't like, yeah, they're going to slap it with woke. And the problem is, it's happening with just normal gamers. Like, normal everyday people are seeing what's happening, but you're calling out just this small fringe group of people who, again, probably have perfect criticisms, but again, they just oversimplify everything. But that's not the problem. The problem is, why are we to this point? Right?
It is racist and sexist, and it destroyed the meaning that those words are supposed to have.
Yeah.
He's right.
The boy
Gross
who cried racist.
oversimplification.
Nazi is the worst one. I think Nazi and slavery are two of the worst ones that are used now, because people use, like, for example, I'm working at a job that doesn't treat me well as slavery, and like they don't, like, it's just, I think it downplays, like, we have real slavery, right? Like, now we have real slavery.
Yeah.
It's not in the US. Like, and by the way, if you are trying, like, there's like 3 smart Redditors in chat that are like, oh, what about prisons? Nothing like slavery. Nothing like actual slavery. If you think that, you're a retard, read a book.
God.
Anyway, just look it up on Wikipedia. It'll take you 5 seconds to learn that you're stupid. So if you compare that to like what's happening in, like, Africa, etc., that is actual slavery in some cases, right? It is.
Again, nobody talks about lithium mining or cobalt mining in Africa. No one talks about, the sweatshops in Asia that have been contracted out to American companies. Like, actual versions of these things exist, but that's not what people are talking about. People are talking about a product that demands my fucking money, right? A company that covets my fucking money, but they refuse to give me the product I want. This is where I'm arguing from, right? Because as a company, you only exist to give me the fucking product I want. The problem is that's not happening. And this is happening across the board. It's happening with games, it's happening with movies, happening with TV shows. Like, I mean, do we need 5, 6, 7, descriptors or criteria? No, because it's unreasonable to expect just someone who works for a living to now become the great argumentative person and to be in the zeitgeist that say I or you or these other two are in. Like, it's unreasonable to expect that. Again, my criteria is, again, if you fail to give the market what they want, then you're dumb, you're bad, and that's just really all to it.
It's really bad. And so people that compare those two things, I think, are being like very, very disingenuous, and they're like hijacking the emotional baggage of a word to make their own argument or their own feelings more important. And
no, I don't think it's the same. Again, people like to equivocate. Again, what is someone that says everything woke? What are they saying? Okay, this game, this movie is woke. I'm not buying it. Then they fuck off. What are the people that the group of people saying, oh, this is racist, this is sexist, this is bigoted? Well, they want action to be taken against these things. They demand actions are taken against people, right? This is what happens with Silvervale when she got bullied by these ideological individuals, right? They actively seek actions against these people, these ideas, these criticisms, and 9 times out of 10 it's just from everyday people. Like, but now that the company has this power over people, now that, again, the community managers have this power over people, I mean, that's where the issue is. It's not the word being used, it's everything that the word is describing, which is the problem.
And I think Nazi is the same thing. Like,
yeah,
the amount of
again,
times that I hear
the
people
are
being
like,
called
oh,
Nazi.
Nazi. Well, what do you want done? Well, they want harm. They want them to get fired. They want them to get ostracized. And again, these criticisms that, say, a left-winger will do is against people, right? They want people taken down. Like, right-wingers, one, they don't care. Two, again, if they see a woke product, they're like, okay, I'm not going to spend my money on this. Then they fuck off. Again, I don't understand the equivocation that's going on. That, oh, it's the same thing. It's like, no, we're talking two groups of people that have differing ideas, differing values, differing worldviews. And yeah, even within, say, conservative and right-wingers, you might have many other offshoots of that. But again, let's not equivocate here.
Because they don't want open borders, or they're like Donald Trump fans, is way too much.
The Boy Who Cried Sexist, The Boy Who Cried Woke. These are 3 books in a volume. Okay,
he's right.
That all have the same ending.
Dude, so it's I mean, you're a video game critic and you do video game analysis, so I find it shocking that you don't see the pattern in a game like Concord having 3 black females in it and not a single white man.
Oh, it did have a white guy in it, but
yeah, I mean, it did.
I think the problem is that a lot of the people that have discussions about this topic have, like, they've already made up their mind about it, and they're looking at it from a one-dimensional perspective. And I think that's what happens with people that are, like, super anti and super pro this type of, like, inclusion, because they're not really looking at it. Both of these extremes trend to the perspective of, I am basing my opinion on things off of something that is not happening, basically, right? Exactly what happened to just make a good game. People are too emotional. Yeah, well, it's also that people are not really willing to like concede any ground. And I think if you're not really willing to see like the sense of like what other people are saying, then I think that you can't be reasoned with, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with extremes, but we gotta understand the majority of people don't sit in the extremes, right? The majority of people work for a living, right? And like again, I work. I have a YouTube channel and I stream. And at the end of the day, I want good entertainment. So again, if you hear the company saying giving all this lip service to things that no one really cares about, and that's reflective in the product, like in Dragon Age Failguard. I mean, that's all that information I need to whether or not I'm gonna buy the game or not, right? Because again, they demand my money, and games are expensive now. So, and they still don't, and they want games to be even more expensive. So they demand my money, but they refuse to give me the product I want. And it's not like that has never happened, right? Dragon Age used to be good, but it's, again, the woke ideology agrees that everything that came before is evil, it's bad, we can do better. Why? Because we have this ideology, we know better than the consumer, right? We know better than them, and we will impose our ideology on them. And again, when normal fucking people interact with these individuals, they're like, yeah, sure, idiot, and they fuck off, right?
You can't have people understand what your perspective is. So yeah, what if everything really is woke? I feel like then at that point, then the term doesn't mean anything. Because like, it's kind of like, remember what I was saying before about how I don't like how people call things scams? Like for example, like Lunchly, or like the Pokemon cookies. They're not really a scam, they're just overpriced. And I think that if you use the word scam, a scam is when you buy something and you don't get what you paid for, fundamentally, right?
I mean, I
So
agree
like
with
you
that.
buy something, they don't give the thing to you, or you buy something and you get something else. Or you buy something under the pretense of one thing, and then what's advertised and what's given are two separate things, right? So that's what an actual scam is. And so having overpriced products or having products that are stupid are not scams, they're just overpriced garbage. And so if you take the word, and again, I think that's what happens, people like to take the word and then expand it so they can have that emotional control over the conversation.
Protect your vehicle with
Oh
Pico
my
recharge equipment
God.
technology. Our formulas match the vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, people do that, but I don't care. I mean, again, I don't like you need to use the correct definition or the correct word on this. Like, in a sense, yes, right? But people are stupid. A person is smart. Like, on a one-on-one, yeah, okay, sure. But if you're trying to appeal to groups or masses of people, I mean, the tactic works to use the most, ideologically charged or the most emotionally charged word. Is that my dog needing to go out? Like, the tactic
Pokemon
works.
cookies were a scam because there was one claim to be. If you want to make the health argument, the health benefit argument, I think that's a fair argument to make. I don't think something being overpriced offering dinners for them for 12 versus ad. Oh, McDonald's. Oh, but yeah, that's my perspective. The entire subreddit when Ghost Yotai was announced.
Yeah, and again, I don't really know if you'll discuss the rest of this, but yeah, I mean, again, the word is prescriptive, right? It's not. It's just supposed to be a signifier of, if you want to purchase the product or not. At least with games and movies, with entertainment as a whole, right? I mean, when people see this word, yeah, it's effectively a slur. That's the same thing with DEI, or with BlackRock, right? Or with at first it was diversity, yeah. And people are like, okay, well, things have always been diversity, but then they changed the word, they changed the meaning. What they mean is just this ideological corporate uh, idea that, again, they use completely different definitions of like diversity that's effectively ideological. That again, it's something your mother wouldn't understand. I mean, they say Black Myth Wukong isn't diverse enough, even though it's made by Chinese people. And you play all sorts. There's all sorts of different creatures of Chinese mythology in there, but it's not diverse enough. And you have to ask the question, well, what the fuck do you mean by diverse? Right? And again, it has 20 million sales, so it's clearly something like there's clearly a means to know what the consumer wants. They just refuse to go down that path, right? And that's what woke is. It's refuse, and to me, it's refusing to go with what the major consensus is with a product as far as gamers and consumers, right? And you can do this for many reasons, but I think the ideological one is what people see, and I have the fucking hiccup, so I'm probably going to end this soon. But yeah, that's my definition. But again, people will have different interpretations, and yeah, some people oversimplify it, but I mean, at the end of the day, you yourself need to be like, okay, what do I mean by this? But anyway, that's all I gotta say about this. Peace.